Inside the Fox Sports Studios, Emily Jones back with you talking a little Big 12 football. Thanks to the guys at Scout.com. We are breaking down the Big 12 from top to bottom right now. Time to turn our attention to the Iowa State Cyclones. Bring in Greg Olson of CycloneSportsReport.com. And Greg, this is year 2 under Paul Rhoads. What's he going to do for an encore?
Well, I think the biggest key is trying to survive what some people are calling the toughest schedule in the country. Getting Texas and Oklahoma on the road back-to-back again this year, and adding Utah to the schedule, along with, of course, Iowa in the non-conference. So he told me after the spring game, he said, we conceivably could improve this year and still not have as good a record. Now, of course, that's not what he wants, but that it is going to be a great challenge, our schedule. And I think the big key when you say, what does he want to build off, he wants to continue to improve the defense, which, you know, the year before he took over, our defense was 110th nationally, which is awful. And in 1 year, they went from 110th nationally to 34th, which was a huge improvement, and one of the reasons we went from winning 2 games to 7 games. Offensively, we got to put the ball in the end zone more. We did score points, but we did not score enough touchdowns.
Greg, how does Paul Rhoads' enthusiasm affect the recruiting trail? You know it better than anyone as far as what these recruits are thinking. That infamous YouTube video that gave everyone chills, I think, that watched it after that Nebraska game, had to get some guys from the high school level fired up, didn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, everyone knows with recruiting, when they come on a visit or something, you know, of course that coach wants you to come to that school. They're going to be acting nice to you and everything. But when you talk to these recruits, you really see it that if you're around Paul Rhoads long enough, you realize that's how he is. First of all, he's very emotional, but in a good way. Second of all, because he really cares. And second of all, he's from the state of Iowa, and he knows, you know, we went on the road and won that Nebraska game, what you were talking about, that locker room speech. We had not beaten Nebraska since the 1960s on the road. And he knew what that meant to the Iowa State fans. That was not just a victory for the Iowa State players and the coaches. That was a victory that fans were talking about for weeks, and they still are, because Nebraska is such a great traditional football program, and for us to go in there and beat them the way, you know, causing 8 turnovers and pulling out a game without our starting quarterback, really impressive. And so for this team to do that, they really, these recruits really genuinely see what Paul Rhoads is all about.
And are you seeing him have the impact of all those things, as far as having an impact on the recruiting trail and getting, you know, some higher caliber players, you know, just because of the success he had in his first year?
Yeah, and 2 of them specifically. One of them was a running back from down in Florida, Chantel Johnson. This was a kid who got a late offer from the University of Florida. Another kid, Jeremiah George, who was a linebacker who some people say is a little undersized, may even play this year, was up for the spring game to watch. These are 2 kids that many people consider steals by Paul Rhoads. Chantel Johnson, many people feel, could be the heir apparent to Alexander Robinson, the outstanding running back for us, who will be going into a senior year this year. And Jeremiah George, many people feel not only will this kid play as a freshman, but, you know, as a future captain, great leader. And these are guys that Rhoads just went into the state of Florida, and they're seeing, and I remember talking to Jeremiah George, he said, seeing Iowa State win their bowl game just showed what Coach Rhoads is all about.
All right, let's talk about some of the guys that are coming back. You mentioned Alexander Robinson. You've got the quarterback, Austin Arnott, also coming back. How much will this offense rely on their experience and their veteran leadership to get them through what, as you mentioned, it's such a tough schedule?
Well, it'll be a huge factor, and also we have most of our offensive line returning, which obviously in order to protect Austin and to block for Alexander is huge, because sometimes in the past Iowa State's offensive line has been a major problem. The big thing with Austin is he's got to step up this year. It's his final year after playing these last 2 years in the big games. Austin was very solid last year, but in the Iowa game, he had 5 interceptions. That can't happen. He's a senior, and Austin's had to deal with a lot of things. He came in having been recruited by Dan McCarney. Then McCarney left, and he had to learn a whole new system under Gene Chizik, and then Chizik left, and now he had to learn a whole other system under Coach Rhoads' staff. So now that he's had 2 full years to learn this system, he should be fully comfortable, and if he plays with poise, Austin could have a big year, because we have many of our receivers back from last year. In regards to Alexander Robinson, this kid's a trooper. He was not a 5-star, 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He was a very solid high school player, but he is a guy who just gets it. He understands the offense. He reads his blocks, and he's just tough to bring down. And he can catch the ball from the backfield. And once again, he should be a major factor in the Big 12 next year. This is a guy who missed 2 games last year and still rushed for 1,200 yards.
David Sims, the Big 12 newcomer of the year, anchoring that defense. Who else can we look for the Cyclones to step up?
Well, the secondary, in fact, along with Sims, you got guys like Leonard Johnson and Teron Benton, who were huge factors last year. They're likely going to be the strongest part of the defense. We lost all our starting linebackers, and so that's the big question mark. A.J. Klein and Jake are 2 sophomores that don't have a lot of experience, so that's a position where we really need to see improvement. And then in regards to saying who's stepping up, Rashawn Parker, coming back from a knee injury, is a guy who's been a guy who can get to the quarterback and get some sacks. We have to have that. Iowa State has struggled in regards to pass rushing these last few years, and if he doesn't step up, along with Patrick Neal and some of the young pass rushers, the Iowa State defense could struggle. So that's the key. Our secondary should be our strong suit, but the defensive line and the linebackers are going to be the whole key to whether we can go against that tough schedule.
Greg Olson of CycloneSportsReport.com, thanks so much for the time. We do appreciate it. Look forward to following your work from Ames this season. Stick around. We've still got much more to come here on Big 12 Showcase, including a closer look at the Buffaloes as we head to Boulder.